In Killing Kennedy, The End of Camelot, published in 2012, authors Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard take readers on a gripping journey through the life of President John F. Kennedy, leading up to the tragic moment on November 22, 1963, that would forever alter American history. Rather than a traditional biography, O'Reilly and Dugard focus on painting a vivid picture of the people, events, and circumstances that surrounded Kennedy's presidency, all while building the tension toward his eventual assassination. The book's approach isn't to dwell on political intricacies or attempt a comprehensive account of Kennedy's life. Instead, the authors provide an episodic narrative that immerses readers in the Kennedy White House, often described as America's Camelot. This image, one of youthful grace, courage, and idealism, is both a myth and a reality that the authors explore. Through the eyes of Jacqueline Kennedy, in particular, the idea of Camelot feels genuine, capturing a time when the president and his family embodied hope and public service. As part of O'Reilly and Dugard's Killing series, which began with Killing Lincoln in 2011, Killing Kennedy often draws comparisons between the presidencies of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, noting strange coincidences that link the two figures and their fates. But, while the authors are careful not to indulge in speculation, they acknowledge the lingering mystery surrounding Kennedy's assassination. They don't shy away from the public's long-held suspicions that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. With a careful, fact-based approach, O'Reilly and Dugard outline Oswald's role, referencing the controversial 1964 Warren Commission report. Still, they keep the door open to possibility. Through the book's episodic format, they offer glimpses of individuals and groups who may have had their own reasons for wanting Kennedy dead. Though they don't take sides on conspiracy theories, the authors leave readers with a sense of the many forces, seen and unseen, that may have played a role in the unraveling of Camelot. Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard break the story into 3 parts, spanning 27 chapters, along with a prologue, afterword, and epilogue. Each chapter is carefully constructed to set the stage, detailing the date, time, and location, as the tension builds toward the heartbreaking assassination. As the narrative progresses, the pace accelerates, especially in the chapters leading up to the tragic moment, creating a sense of urgency and drama. The journey begins with O'Reilly's personal reflection in A Note to Readers, where he recalls the shock of learning about Kennedy's assassination as a high school freshman. This introduction also introduces the Kennedy-Lincoln connection, pointing out the strange coincidences linking the lives and deaths of the two presidents. The prologue sets the scene on Inauguration Day, marking the moment Kennedy took the presidential oath. It introduces key figures such as Robert F. Kennedy, the new Attorney General, Lyndon B. Johnson, the Vice President, and, notably, Lee Harvey Oswald, the future assassin. Most crucially, the prologue hints at the significance of Jacqueline Kennedy and the myth of Camelot that would define this period. In Part 1, titled Cheating Death, the narrative delves into Kennedy's harrowing experience during World War II when his patrol torpedo boat, PT-109, was struck by a Japanese destroyer. This ordeal, which tested his leadership and survival instincts, transformed the young Kennedy from a carefree playboy into a determined leader. The rest of Part 1 follows the early years of his presidency, highlighting both the more reckless aspects of his character, including his sexual escapades, and his more serious leadership during 2 major crises. In the aftermath of the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion, Kennedy faced intense scrutiny but learned valuable lessons. A year and a half later, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he would demonstrate the maturity and resolve that helped steer the country away from nuclear conflict. In this section, O'Reilly and Dugard also offer glimpses into the troubled mind of Lee Harvey Oswald, foreshadowing his tragic role in the president's fate. Part 2, The Curtain Descends, covers the period from January to October of 1963. Following the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy and Jacqueline grew even closer. Jackie became pregnant, and the Kennedy family seemed to embody the Camelot myth more than ever. This period also saw Kennedy navigating complex issues at home and abroad. The civil rights movement, led by Martin Luther King Jr., reached new heights, while Kennedy, alongside his brother Bobby, took bold steps toward advancing civil rights, despite fierce opposition. These actions alienated the president from powerful figures like FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and violent segregationists in the South. As the year wore on, Kennedy's popularity began to wane, and a trip to Texas in November was arranged in part to shore up support. Meanwhile, tragedy struck on the personal front when Jackie Kennedy gave birth to a stillborn son. Still grieving, she reluctantly joined the president on his trip to Texas, unaware of the horror that awaited them. Meanwhile, Oswald's delusions and commitment to communism deepened, driving him toward a fateful decision. Part 3, Evil Wins, focuses on the days leading up to the assassination. With the narrative moving swiftly toward its tragic climax, the authors describe the events in Dallas in chilling detail. In October, Adlai Stevenson, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was attacked by anti-UN protesters in Dallas. 3 weeks before the assassination, Oswald's growing radicalism was noticed by the FBI. With the president's motorcade route published in the local newspapers, the stage was set for the tragedy. In a series of short, fast-paced chapters, O'Reilly and Dugard describe the morning of November 22, 1963, from Oswald's movements to the moment Kennedy was fatally shot. The penultimate chapter focuses on the aftermath, recounting the frantic rush to Parkland Hospital, where Kennedy was declared dead. The subsequent swearing-in of Lyndon B. Johnson aboard Air Force One and Oswald's arrest at the Texas Theater are detailed with precision. The investigation into the assassination stops there. O'Reilly and Dugard shift the focus to the human impact of the crime. In Chapter 27, the authors revisit the Camelot theme through Jackie Kennedy's public statements, including an interview with Life magazine, where she famously said, "There'll never be another Camelot." The authors conclude by returning to the Kennedy-Lincoln connection, revealing that Jackie Kennedy orchestrated her husband's funeral to resemble that of Abraham Lincoln's. The book ends with an epilogue, featuring a scanned letter President Kennedy wrote in 1962 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation.